This one, a quick one. We got a little bit of a late start, and I got a big announcement too. We're going to be moving this prediction show a little bit earlier in the week, which should benefit us a little bit. We're going to move back to Tuesday nights. Check my sound to make sure that we're not talking ourselves once again for minutes at a time. Let's see. Good deal. Good deal. But yeah, moving back to Tuesday nights. Tuesday nights Contender Series is going to start this summer. Just in time for that, we're going to start doing fight companions once again for it. So pretty pumped about that. But let's jump right into it. This weekend, flyweight title, vacant flyweight title. Henry Cejudo had to vacate his title. Being injured, he couldn't keep both belts held up, so he decided to let go of the flyweight title and keep the bantamweight title. The two people fighting for the flyweight title are going to be Joseph Benavidez and Davidson Figueiredo. Good card. We're going to jump straight into it. Just these two papers here. Right? This way. So we got starting the main card, which is probably not starting the main card anymore. They've changed the bout order since I wrote all this down. So probably not the first fight, but the first fight we're going to talk about. I think the first fight's Grant Dawson, Derek Minor, or whatever. But we're going to talk about Gabriel Silva versus Kyler Phillips. Silva's 8-1, 0-1 in the UFC. Excuse me. He lost his debut to Ray Borg, and then his last fight, which was to Ray Borg, was July of last year. Phillips is 6-1. He's going to be making his UFC debut this Saturday. His one and only loss was a split decision loss to Victor Henry in 2018. His last fight was a knockout win in LFA, February of 2019, so about a year ago. He's been off for a year. I'm assuming majority of that had to do with his free agency. You know, when you're negotiating and stuff, that could take some time. So I would assume it's not. Didn't have anything to do with injuries or anything like that. I don't know for a fact, but I'm just going to assume that because of this being his debut. But both up-and-coming prospects. Gabriel Silva has fought Ray Borg. We haven't really seen any top-notch competition that Phillips has fought, but 7 overall fights going against 9 overall fights, 1 UFC fight versus his first UFC fight. I don't really think there's that many kind of attributes to look at to where these guys are different. You know, they're very much alike as far as them being up and coming fighters, trying to make a big splash in the UFC. I'm gonna go with Kyler Phillips here, and strictly because of what I've heard from him on the regional scene, I think he's going to be able to make a pretty big splash in the UFC. And I have not heard the same for Gabriel Silva. I did see his Ray Borg fight. He did decent in the fight, but you could definitely tell that he got outclassed by Ray Borg. And we'll have to see. This is going to be one of those fights that's really, really, really hard to pick. So, wouldn't be surprised if I won. Wouldn't be surprised if I lost. So, but I'm going Kyler Phillips. Then we got Megan Anderson versus Norma Dumont. Megan Anderson's 10-4, never been knocked out. 2-2 in the UFC with wins over Kat Zingano and Zara Farron dos Santos, who's fighting in the co-main event. Her 2 losses are to Holly Holm and Felice Spencer, who will be fighting Zara Farron dos Santos in that co-main event. And that Felicia Spencer fight was actually her most recent fight. So she's coming off a loss. She's 5 out of 10 of her wins are via TKO or knockout. 2 out of 4 of her losses are via submission. So you would kind of think that her strength is striking, her downfall, her weakness would be the submission game, but kind of not. She's a really lengthy fighter. She's got a lot of skills on the ground. She's just not. I don't think she's a black belt yet, so she's got that working against her. Whereas I'm pretty sure Felice Spencer is either a brown belt or a black belt. I can't remember. Dumont's 4-0. She's making her UFC debut. 2 wins via submission, 2 by decision. So I mean, you could look at that and you could say, hey, half of her wins. She's only had 4 fights compared to Megan Anderson's 14 fights, but half of her wins coming by submission. And Megan Anderson has showed that she isn't the best at defending takedowns and submissions and stuff like that. But on the other hand, you got to look at experience. You got to look at who Megan Anderson's fought in her career. The fact that Dumont's making her UFC debut, it just doesn't look good, man. It's not a good look for Dumont, and I don't think that she stands a chance, to be completely honest. I think she's going to get mopped up standing up, and Megan Anderson's probably looking at a first round TKO in that fight. Which brings us to Ion Cutabala versus Magomed Ankalaev. Cutabala is 15-4-1, 5-3 in the UFC. 12 out of 15 of his wins are via TKO or knockout, and he's never been knocked out in his career. 2 out of 4 of his losses are via submission, Misha Serkinov and Glover Teixeira. And his most recent win was a TKO over Khalil Roundtree in September, which is very surprising. Everybody knows that Khalil Roundtree has been turning a corner in his career. He's been showing a lot of power in the, I think it's the middleweight division there. So for Ion Cutabala to take that win, that was a really, really big win for him. And it should push him. If he beats this guy, he's got maybe one more fight, and he should definitely be cracking the top 15, if not after this fight, depending on how impressive he wins. But that's if he wins. He's going up against a hard task in Magomed Ankalaev, whatever, 13-1, 7 TKO or knockout wins out of 13 wins. His only one loss was via decision to Paul Craig in his UFC debut. He's 3-1, which means he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Those wins include Marcin Prashino, Kadisan Abreu, and Daucha Lingabula. So, no real big names there, but Ankalaev has definitely shown that he could be a contender in this division. He's showed knockout power. Truly just one of those all-around fighters. He's going to be good on the ground. I think it comes down to the thing where we were talking about with Zaibur Tukurov last week when everybody was saying if Tukurov doesn't take him down, he's got no chance. I think very similar conversations are going to happen about Ankalaev, where they're going to say if he doesn't do this, he doesn't stand a chance. If he doesn't do this, he doesn't stand a chance. But I'm pretty sure that Ankalaev can pretty much get around all that. I'm not going to say that he's going to win. I don't think that he actually will. I think he's going to lose to Ion Cutabala by probably TKO in the second round. But I don't think he's going to roll over. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight, and it could even be so close to the fight it comes down to split decision. I'm not too sure yet. Co-main event, Felicia Spencer, Zara Ferrin dos Santos. We talked about this earlier. Spencer 7-1. 4 out of 7 of her wins are via submission. Her only loss was a decision loss in her last fight against Chris Cyborg, last July, so almost a year ago. 1-1 in the UFC. She beat Megan Anderson in her debut, and then, of course, lost to Cyborg in her second fight. Zaira Ferrin dos Santos is 6-3, 0-1 in the UFC. Lost via submission to Megan Anderson in her UFC debut, and both her other losses were via decision. So, it's a hard one. It's you don't like to say MMA math works. MMA math doesn't work for the most part. Just because this guy beat this guy doesn't mean this guy could beat this guy. Same thing for the women. But on the other hand, Felicia Spencer was able to take down and submit Megan Anderson, and Megan Anderson was able to do the same thing to Zara Ferrin dos Santos. So it just kind of sees like as long as Felicia Spencer goes in there and executes her game plan, she should be able to submit dos Santos with ease. I'm going to go Felicia Spencer by submission, probably first round, man. I would assume it only takes her a couple minutes to figure out how she's going to get her down. And then once she does, it's pretty much see you later, bye from there. Which brings us to the main event. Joseph Benavidez, Stevenson Figueroa, 28-5 by Benavidez. He's only been finished once by KO, and that was he's only been finished once at all, and that fight was a knockout loss to Demetrius Johnson. His 5 losses are to Sergio Pettis, the most recent one, Demetrius Johnson twice, and then Dominic Cruz twice. So he's got those 2 guys that he's kind of seeming like he can't beat, Dominic Cruz, Demetrius Johnson. And then he lost to Sergio Pettis, which we all see what Sergio Pettis is doing in Bellator right now. He's on a roll at this stage of his career, so it's not really taking too much away from Joseph Benavidez that he lost that fight by decision. He's currently on a 3-fight winning streak right now over Alex Perez, Dustin Ortiz, and José Formiga. His last fight was in June of 2019. Figueroa's 17-1. His only loss was a decision loss to José Formiga, another common opponent, and the MMA math doesn't work. Trust me when I give you my pick, it's not based off MMA math. He's on a 2-fight winning streak right now over Alejandro Pantoja and Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott's fight was October 2019, so probably like 3 or 4 months ago. 14 out of 17 of his wins are finishes. So he finishes. He's not one to go to a decision. If he goes to a decision, of course, we've seen what happened there with that loss to José Formiga. And he's 3-1 in submissions. Let's say that out of 18 fights, he's 3-1. So, and his one decision loss was to a high level José Formiga, which is the same thing for Joseph Benavidez. Excuse me. For the rest of the card, I'm obviously picking Joseph Benavidez. I'm going to go decision too. Probably unanimous. 5-round unanimous decision for Joseph Benavidez. Also on the card, a lot of people think should be on the main card. Brandon Allen and Tom Baris. Ismail Naridov versus Sean Brady. Luis Pena got a new opponent, Steve Garcia Jr. Grant Dawson versus Derek Manor. I'm pretty sure that's going to be on the main card. Alon Cruz versus Spike Carlisle. Spike Carlisle making his UFC debut. That should be exciting. Jordan Griffin versus TJ Brown. Great fight. Marcin Tybura versus Sergey Spivak. Another good fight, man. This is a pretty stacked card on paper. It doesn't always work out like that. We've seen a very, very good card last week, and it didn't seem like it was going to be that kind of a good card last week, and it delivered on all aspects. The main event, the lead up to the main event, every fight delivered, and it's just from watching the card last week, it's easy to see why you can't judge. So you can't say, "Oh, it's a crappy card on paper. I'm not going to watch it." It could be completely different. Now, the only time that I can remember myself, and I hate to fucking call him out, but the only time I can remember thinking to myself, yeah, this is probably a crappy card on paper, or like just a mild card on paper, and then it just turned out to be that fucking trash-ass card was UFC Riley here. Riley was it was painful, man. It had its bright moments. So it had a little bit of bright moments, but for the most part, man, on paper it looked like it was going to be very mild, and then we got there and it was like 10 times more mild than we thought it was going to be. So sometimes it's easier to read, sometimes it's not. I definitely would never not watch a card just because I think it's not good on paper. This one, on the other hand, looks like it's very good on paper, and let's see what card we'll be talking about. Short turnaround because we're talking to you on a Thursday right now. We will be talking to you on a Tuesday of next week. So let's see. Next week is the pay-per-view, UFC 248, Adesanya versus Romero. That should be a good one. They're going to do I just got an email too that they're doing a presser for Khabib Tony in Vegas right before the fights. Wally Zhang's going to be fighting Joanna on that card. Neil Magny's on the card with Li Jinglang. Alex Oliveira, Max Griffin. Sean O'Malley makes his return on that card. Marco Madsen. Gerald Meerschaert's fighting De'Aaron Wynn. Dan Cormier, protege. Should be a really, really good card too. That one, if I have to make a snap judgment on it before I look deeper into the card, I just say out of the pay-per-views that we've seen this year so far, that one's probably going to be on the lower end of the pay-per-view, unless the main card can really, really deliver. It's just not as deep prelims wise. But That's going to be it, man. I'm only going to do a small video today just because I know we'll be back on Tuesday to do another one. Nothing this weekend. We're going to, I think Post Malone's coming to our city this Saturday night. So we got tickets. We're going to go check out Post Malone, see what's up with him. So no companion this weekend. Probably won't even get back to see any of the fights. So I'll probably have to catch the fights on when the next day, or just catch the results. I'll probably see like the prelims and shit like that. But no main card for me, no main event for me. I wish Joseph Benavidez the best. I always hope that he does good. The one good moment of Henry Cejudo's career I could say I liked about his career is when Joseph Benavidez beat him. The whole Ultimate Fighter season, the whole entire season, and then Benavidez beating him at the end. It was great. Excuse me. But yeah, that was my highlight of Henry Cejudo's career. So thank you, Joseph, for that one. And best of luck this weekend. Guys, we'll be back on Tuesday. Make sure you tune in Tuesday nights. You can always remember Tuesday Night Contender Series, barbecue in the pit. All right, we'll see you on Tuesday, guys.